Wendy's Frosty is nothing short of iconic. According to Wendy's original Frosty guy, Fred Kappus, the drink was born in the 1960s, when it was inspired by a frozen treat at a racetrack in Cleveland, Ohio. The end is nigh. The end of 2019 that is, but don't fret too much, the new year has a ton of great games to look forward to. The sign at the track read, "Secret Formula, Frosted Malted," but the secret was pretty easy to figure out. They mixed together vanilla and chocolate to create a smooth, malty flavor. Wendy's founder Dave Thomas thought it would be the perfect accompaniment to the chain's burgers and French fries, and the rest is history. According to Reader's Digest, the chain was selling 300 million Frosties per year by the mid-2000s, and they haven't stopped there. Frosty promotions continue to soar, from Wendy's 50-cent Frosties for their 50th anniversary in 2019 to the announcement of their new flavor, the birthday cake Frosty. But for us, it's all about that classic chocolate Frosty, but getting it from the drive-thru isn't always an option. So we wanted to figure out how to make it at home and mixed together a very short ingredients list to create a 3-ingredient copycat Frosty you can make at home. If you haven't been following the hype meters, worry not, we've compiled a list with some of the most anticipated games of 2020. Here is our top 10 games to look forward to in 2020. 1. Cyberpunk 2077 release date, April 16, 2020. Cyberpunk 2077 is arguably the RPG to beat in 2020, and it hasn't even released yet. Is it as tasty as the original? Does it have that same semi-melted consistency we've come to know and love? Read on to find out. Gather the ingredients for this 3-ingredient copycat Frosty. Before we got started, we took a peek at the ingredients list on Wendy's website for their classic chocolate Frosty. We knew that they, for sure, use more than 3 ingredients, but we wanted to try to be as authentic as possible with our shortened list. There were several familiar ingredients like milk, sugar, corn syrup, cream, cocoa, and natural vanilla flavor. We skipped over all the stabilizers and emulsifiers, like guar gum, sodium citrate, and vitamin A palmitate, knowing that we could find some of them in store-bought products. In the end, we chose the 3 ingredients that would maximize the flavor bang for our buck: chocolate milk, Cool Whip, and sweetened condensed milk. With CD Projekt Red at the helm, the acclaimed developer behind the Witcher series, expectations are high and climbing higher by the month. The chocolate milk would knock out the milk and cocoa components, while the Cool Whip contained additional milk, corn syrup, and guar gum, an ingredient that keeps ice crystals from forming in milk, making ice cream extra creamy. If an RPG set in a technologically advanced dystopian future with a gritty storyline and grisly combat doesn't sell you, perhaps the inclusion of Keanu Reeves will. 2. Marvel's Avengers release date, May 15, 2020. It's time for Earth's mightiest heroes to assemble once again, but this time, they'll need the help of Ms. The sweetened condensed milk would bring it all together with a punch of sugary flavor. You'll find a full list of the ingredients, including the step-by-step blending directions, at the end of this article. Do you need an ice cream machine to make a 3-ingredient copycat Frosty? Wendy's uses ice cream machines to make Frosties in their restaurants, but that doesn't mean you have to. Marvel to bring the group back together. According to the Square deal, the original Frosty was made in a standard, 4-quart soft-serve ice cream machine, but the company quickly sized up to larger machines to handle the volume. Luckily, we're only making enough Frosty to serve one person at a time, so you don't need any fancy equipment. Aside from a storyline that will undoubtedly rub Marvel and superhero fans in all the right places, Marvel's Avengers will provide a leveling and loot system in addition to the multiplayer content geared for 4-person co-op missions. Instead, we'll freeze the ingredients and blend them together using a high-powered blender. If you do want to scale this recipe up to make enough for a crowd, we do recommend using an ice cream machine instead of a blender. Pouring the ingredients into the ice cream maker is not only easier to pull off, but making several batches in a row might overheat the motor on your blender. Is this the Marvel game we've all been waiting for? Many true believers think it is. 3. Halo Infinite release date, TBA 2020. He's back. Just keep in mind that the bowl of the ice cream machine probably needs to be frozen before getting started, so check with the manufacturer and follow all the directions before proceeding. Is Cool Whip a required ingredient to make 3-ingredient copycat Frosty? Cool Whip is one of the staple ingredients of our 3-ingredient copycat Frosty recipe for a few reasons.
For starters, it's sweet like ice cream but contains a lighter, softer texture and consistency. Master Chief has returned, and this time it's personal. That's important for replicating Wendy's Frosty because the texture is closer to soft serve than ice cream. By personal, we mean that players should expect Halo Infinite to follow Master Chief on a brand new adventure, instead of splitting the narrative between two separate storylines like in Halo 5. 343 Industries has assured players that they've been paying attention to what works, and what doesn't in the Halo franchise, and fans should expect a game that capitalizes on Halo's achievements over the years. We also mentioned earlier that Cool Whip contains guar gum, a food additive made from legumes. Halo Infinite will be releasing alongside the Xbox Series X, but will also release on the PC as well. For Final Fantasy VII Remake release date, March 3, 2020. Final Fantasy VII is arguably the most celebrated Final Fantasy title of all time. Even for those that aren't very familiar with Final Fantasy, both Cloud and Sephiroth are two characters that are easily recognizable, which is a testament to the astounding popularity of the title. It's high in fiber, so it may contain some health benefits, but it's mostly used here to thicken up the whipped topping and keep the milk from forming ice crystals. If you're not into all the additives in the container of Cool Whip, you could certainly make your own whipped cream. Keep in mind that cream doubles in volume as it's whipped, so you would only need to whip 1/2 cup heavy whipping cream. You'll also want to add about a tablespoon of powdered sugar to the mix to give it the right sweetness. When you're finished whipping, store the whipped cream in the freezer for at least an hour before making the recipe below. What can you do with the rest of the sweetened condensed milk? Our 3-ingredient Copycat Frosty recipe makes a single serving, so you only need 1 tablespoon sweetened condensed milk. That leaves a lot of product left in the can. Square Enix surprised everyone, most notably the fans, when they released the trailer indicating a remake was on the way, but they astounded even non-fans of Final Fantasy when they released a gameplay trailer with stunning graphics and a hybridized action RPG combat system that aims to please fans of the series both new and old. 5 Torchlight Frontiers release date, TBA 2020. Fans of the ARPG should know the Torchlight series by now. The good news is the leftovers will last a while, 3 weeks in the refrigerator or up to 3 months in the freezer. After Torchlight 2 hit the stage, the idea of opening the world of Torchlight in a massive multiplayer way was floated and fans gave a resounding yes to the possibility. After the announcement and alpha of Torchlight Frontiers began, many were expecting a 2019 release date. Leaf recommends transferring the sweetened condensed milk to an airtight container, as the product becomes less fresh as it's exposed to air. From there, you can use the remaining can for your favorite recipes. We've created several 3-ingredient recipes that use a can of sweetened condensed milk, including 3-ingredient banana bread and 3-ingredient fudge. As many MMO gamers can attest to, the best thing any developer can do for their fans is wait to release a game until it's ready, and that's exactly what Extra Games has been hard at work doing. Removing a single tablespoon or roughly a 20th of the can shouldn't impact the recipe too much, so bake away. With feedback from players in alpha, Torchlight Frontiers is shaping up to be one of the best online games of 2020. 6 The Last of Us, Part 2 release date, May 29, 2020. Action-adventure titles have come a long way in the last decade. With some very high-profile and much-anticipated headliners on the horizon, none may be as anticipated as the sequel to the PlayStation-exclusive title, The Last of Us. In addition to baked goods, have some fun with no-bake recipes like key lime pie or no-churn ice cream. In a sequel that aims to be twice as brutal, Naughty Dog has shifted focus in The Last of Us, Part 2 to Ellie, in an effort to expand a story that has us captivated, and awaiting a continuance. You can also add sweetened condensed milk to iced coffee or tea drinks, or create a refreshing Brazilian lemonade drink by blending it with limes, water, and ice. Start by making chocolate milk ice cubes for a perfect 3-ingredient Copycat Frosty. Okay, now that we've reviewed all the ingredients, it's time to get started making our 3-ingredient Copycat Frosty. The only way to make this recipe without an ice cream maker is to freeze the chocolate milk in ice cube trays. That means you'll have to plan ahead. It takes at least 4 hours for the milk to freeze, and it may take longer, depending on the temperature of your freezer. If you haven't checked out the gameplay for this one yet, do yourself a favor and do so now, you won't be disappointed. 7 New World release date, May 26, 2020. Tally ho. It's unlikely that many explorers actually said that when they found the New World, but in New World by Amazon Game Studios, you can say whatever the hell you want as you quest your way into the colonization of a new land. We recommend preparing the ice cubes a day in advance to be sure they have enough time to freeze fully. It should take about 1–1/4 cups of chocolate milk to fill a 16-cube ice cube tray. Team up, find treasures, forge and craft, and attempt to stay alive on a wild supernatural continent in this survival-inspired MMO that is certainly a departure from your average theme park experience. 8 Phantasy Star Online 2 Western release date, TBA Spring 2020. Some would argue that Phantasy Star Online 2 has been out for the greater part of a decade already, and in a way, that is true. If you don't have an ice cube tray handy, you could also freeze the milk in a freezer-safe bag. When the milk is completely frozen, smash the ice until the pieces are small enough to fit into the blender. In a pinch, you could also use a thoroughly cleaned plastic egg carton or a regular egg carton lined with aluminum foil to make ice cubes. Blend the ingredients until the 3-ingredient Copycat Frosty is smooth. When the chocolate milk cubes are completely frozen, place them in a high-powered blender like a Vitamix along with the Cool Whip and sweetened condensed milk. Turn the blender on and puree the mixture until it's smooth and creamy. However, Phantasy Star Online 2 is now making its way to Western audiences, and fans of the series that have waited hoping for a Western version can rejoice. While we are still awaiting more direct information regarding what, if anything, may be changing, one thing is for certain: Phantasy Star Online 2 has plenty of content that will undeniably keep players busy as more story components, classes, and advanced customization options have been added over the years, and will certainly be pushed over to the Western version at some point. You will definitely need to scrape down the sides from time to time, as it takes a while for the blender to break down all those ice cubes. If your blender comes with a tamper, use it, it will make life so much easier. When the 3-ingredient Copycat Frosty is finished blending, it will be thick like ice cream but soft like a milkshake. For those that may not be sure what platform to get it on, don't worry, as Phantasy Star Online 2 will allow for cross-play between PC and Xbox One. 9 Grounded release date, TBA Spring 2020. As far as survival games go, the 2010s were rife with so many different survival titles that it could be hard to determine which ones were truly worth their cost of admission. Obsidian Entertainment, the much-beloved studio behind some of the greatest titles of the past decade, knows this, and aims to change our perspective on the survival genre, literally. Spoon the Frosty into a cup and enjoy it with a spoon or a straw. In Grounded, players will shrink down in a Honey I Shrunk the Kids way, as they attempt to find their way back to their original size. Or, dip some fries into it, we won't judge. This recipe makes about 16 ounces of Frosty, and you can store any extras in the freezer. Keep in mind they will freeze solid, so give yourself enough time to let the Frosty sit at room temperature for about 30 minutes before enjoying the leftovers. How close did our 3-ingredient Copycat Frosty get to the original? Everyone loved this 3-ingredient Copycat Frosty. One of the taste testers commented that it was richer and more chocolatey than Wendy's original, so we made a second batch and added a splash of vanilla extract. The extra ingredient went a long way to make the Frosty taste almost exactly like the original, but we didn't mind the richer flavor without it, either. As far as texture goes, this recipe was spot on. The real marvel of this story isn't just the premise, it's not that almost all of the world is destructible and usable, or even that there's a vast number of items to craft. Rather, the coolest thing about Grounded is the AI-simulated world, teeming with all manner of animals that will be affected by your presence, and behave according to the impact you make on their world. 10 Minecraft, Dungeons release date, TBA April 2020. Love it or hate it, Minecraft is one of, if not the biggest title of the past decade. It had the same soft but firm consistency we've come to love with these milkshakes, and we could eat it with either a spoon or a straw. Although the chocolate Frosties are our favorite, we did try a second version with regular milk instead of chocolate milk.
We've seen this tiny voxel game turn into a behemoth that has now shifted from a simple building game, to Minecraft Story Mode, an educational title, Minecraft toys and even clothes. If you haven't seen the Minecraft Dungeons trailer yet and feel skeptical that this title will deliver any enjoyable ARPG gameplay, it's worth a look. Not surprisingly, it tasted similar to the vanilla Frosty, but we did have to make a few modifications to get it the rest of the way. You'll definitely want to add the vanilla extract to this mixture, and we added extra sweetened condensed milk to amp up the sweet vibes. In the end, it's totally possible to make Wendy's Copycat Frosty recipes with only 3 ingredients, so stock up the freezer and say goodbye to the drive-thru. Although you'll still have to hit it up from time to time if you want to pick up some dipping fries. 3-ingredient Copycat Frosty directions: prep time 5 minutes plus 4 hours to freeze the chocolate milk. Cook time 0 minutes. Serves 1 16-ounce serving. Ingredients: 1–1/4 cup chocolate milk frozen in an ice cube tray, 1 cup Cool Whip, 1 tablespoon sweetened condensed milk. Optional ingredients: 1/8 teaspoon vanilla extract. Directions: divide the chocolate milk between 16 ice cube trays. Freeze for at least 4 hours or until the milk is completely frozen. Place the chocolate milk ice cubes into a blender with the Cool Whip and sweetened condensed milk. Blend until smooth, scraping down the sides as needed. Use the tamper, if you have one, to make it easier to force the chocolate ice cubes into the blender's blade. Spoon the Copycat Frosty into a cup and enjoy with a spoon or straw. Leftovers can be stored in the freezer. With a small driving narrative, Minecraft Dungeons won't break heavily from what we can expect from an action RPG, with 4-player co-op being an integral part of the questing dynamic. Why does Minecraft Dungeons make the list, you ask? Aside from the vast amount of loot options players can expect, the enchantment system and procedurally generated world will keep players coming back, looting, enchanting, and repeating in ways that will rival your favorite ARPGs. The Frosty will become frozen solid, so let it sit at room temperature for 30 minutes before enjoying.